Hi, this video is about the elemental hit of the spectrum for a Deadeye. As of patch 3.24, the tornado shot is no longer the go-to bow attack for Deadeyes. Elemental hit of the spectrum can be its successor. This attack simply adds fire, cold, and lightning damage to attacks, dealing more elemental damage per elemental ailment on the enemy. Elemental ailments are applied on critical strikes with elemental damage, which you have a lot of on account of your weapon, and other sources of added lightning, cold, and fire damage. Your critical strike chance should be high too. It's an efficient way of gaining more DPS in any hit-based build. We recommend allocating Secrets of Suffering to apply Sap, Scorch, and Brittle elemental ailments while still being able to shock and chill via skitterbots. With these 5 ailments, you will deal 75% more damage. This triple elemental setup will work well with Trinity support and resonances. Pick Deadeye with Far Shot, Endless Munitions, Gathering Winds, and Focal Point, the usual configuration. It results in a fast-paced character with high damage. The build also uses 2 Mana-Forged arrow setups for utility and recovery. It grants a lot of damage during boss fights. Elemental Hit of the Spectrum, in contrast to the regular Elemental Hit, doesn't deal only one type of elemental damage to discard all other types. It's much simpler. It just adds all 3 at the same time. It also can't deal chaos damage, which is absent in this build. It's definitely on the soft core side on a survivability spectrum. It has default 75% resistances, no armor, and low physical damage reduction, making it prone to getting one-shotted. It's still good against attacks due to the very high evasion, and with a 100% spell suppression chance, it will survive most spell hits. Clear speed is its main selling point. It's very high. Single target damage is enough for pinnacle bosses, but taking it further can be dangerous. This is a budget version of a build. It performs as well as a league starter anyway. It's possible to use only rare items, but High-Raise Truth and the Taming seems too good to not use them. For jewels, try to get Lethal Pride and the Interrogation. Other uniques listed here are mostly cheap substitutes that perform well enough. Devoto's Devotion has a lot of movement speed, attack speed, and even some chaos resistance with dexterity. It has no maximum life or elemental resistances, making it viable only for players that don't mind dying a lot. Rat's Nest is very similar to Devoto's Devotion. It's heavily DPS and speed oriented. It lacks defenses and only increases your evasion. Starkonya's Head is another cheap helmet with tons of dexterity, maximum life, and even some attack speed with crit chance. It increases your evasion and reduces damage when below 50% of maximum life. Ahuana's Bite has no maximum life but grants cold damage, cold resistance, and life on hit. It also causes enemies to take increased damage if you can chill them, not by using skitterbots, so use it only if you don't run Secrets of Suffering yet. It's great with added cold damage. High-Raise Ire adds a lot of cold damage to attacks and has tons of spell suppression chance. It lacks maximum life or any resistances, so a good rare armor is probably better, especially as you can cap your suppression easily anyway. If you want critical strike modifiers and rampage, you may find Shadows and Dust Gloves appealing. We, however, recommend rare ones. Prism Weave is good for a budget version. It increases your elemental damage but lacks maximum life. High-Raise Truth is the best amulet. It alone provides you with enough accuracy via precision that you no longer need it on your other gear pieces. It also has a lot of critical strike multiplier and culling strike, very efficient in this build. The Taming is a very fitting piece of jewelry as well on account of its large quantities of elemental resistance and increased elemental damage. If you kill bosses quickly and want to map even faster, we recommend Death Rush Ring. Adrenaline grants physical damage reduction, damage, movement, and attack speed. If you plan to run maps with tough bosses, it may not be as good. Brittle, Scorch, and Sap from Secrets of Suffering are much better than Ignite, Chill, and Shock. Chill and Shock will be applied with Skitterbots anyway. Ignite won't be missed. Having 5 elemental ailments on an enemy is better than the default 3. Watcher's Eye precision modifiers are almost all substantially beneficial. You're also using Grace for an aura. There are some defensive mods tied to it. Lethal Pride single-handedly solves all your strength issues. You have tons of passives, tightly clustered around the further notable. Put it there. You'll need capped resistances, around 4k of maximum life, high evasion rating, and a 100% suppression chance to have a good chance of survival on a regular T16 map. Damage is sourced from added elemental damage of all types and critical strikes. You will need to look for strength and intelligence for your gems. Reservation shouldn't be needed, but you can get some on your rare helmet if you can't sustain the mana cost. On a helmet, seek maximum life, resistances, and spell suppression. Accuracy should not be needed. For the Eldritch mods, get reservation efficiency and reduced mana cost of attacks. Get a bow with added fire, cold, and lightning damage. Combined with attack speed, it should grant at least 700 elemental DPS. For reference, the bow on the gameplay footage had around 1000 elemental DPS, but we weren't using Secrets of Suffering. You can then seek other damage-oriented mods like Crit Chance or Elemental Penetration. Feathered Arrow Quiver should be your first choice. Seek maximum life, attack speed, added elemental damage, and critical strike modifiers. Most of these mods can be crafted. On your body armor, get some maximum life with resistances and shift a portion of incoming physical damage to be taken as elemental. For Eldritch mods, we recommend increased Grace effect and critical strike multiplier for attacks. Boots. Here you will need maximum life and a lot of movement speed. Suppression and resistances might be required. For one of the Eldritch mods, get increased action speed. On the gloves, besides the usual life resistances and suppression, you can get attack speed and additional elemental damage. For the Eldritch mods, get some kind of elemental exposure on hit and rage on hit. A belt is valuable in these types of builds. It may get you some maximum life resistances, strength, elemental damage with attacks, and various flask modifiers. Regular rings are fine if you need extra resistances or attributes, which you probably will. Try to get maximum life and increased elemental damage with attacks here as well. Searching Abyss jewels can roll some very good bow modifiers like added elemental damage to bow attacks or grant you phasing on kill. Regular jewels should be used to gain increased maximum life, attributes, resistances, and critical strike chance or multiplier. If you can afford a bow or attack large cluster jewel with 3 suitable notables, you should buy one. Your default skill tree provides excellent options too, so leave it for the finishing touches. Prepare 1 life flask with bleed immunity, a diamond flask, a silver flask if you're using a regular frenzy, not a frenzy of onslaught, or a quicksilver flask if you do. Get a jade flask or a quartz one if your suppression is not yet capped, and an amethyst flask if your chaos resistance is too low. If not, stibnite flask. These should increase your critical strike chance, attack speed, movement speed, and evasion rating with their suffixes. Elemental Hit of the Spectrum deals elemental damage of all types and 15% more damage per elemental ailment on an enemy. It cannot deal chaos damage. Link it with Mirage Archer, Trinity, returning projectiles, inspiration, and elemental damage with attacks, support gems. If your critical strike chance is nearly capped, replace the last one with increased critical damage. Bow attacks linked with mana-forged arrows support are triggered after spending enough mana on other bow attacks. Blast Rain fires a large number of arrows. Their role is to grant you life and mana on hit via Leech, and life and mana on hit passive node. You can replace it with the Rain of Arrows of Saturation for even more arrows. Storm Rain is here too for the same reason. It's especially good against stationary targets. Link these two with Life Tap and Concentrated Effect Support Gems. Your second Mana-Forged Arrow's setup consists of Ensnaring Arrow and Frenzy. Frenzy of Onslaught consumes Frenzy charges and grants Onslaught for 1 second per charge consumed. You can use regular Frenzy if you're using a Silver Flask. Ensnaring Arrow ensnares the enemy up to 3 times. Such enemy takes increased projectile damage and has less movement speed. Link these with Power Charge on critical for power charges. Enemy marked with Sniper's Mark receives increased projectile damage. Projectiles colliding with them split on impact. Link it with Mark on hit support. The curse is now applied automatically on attack hit against rare and unique enemies. Blood Rage slowly drains your life, increases your attack speed, life leech, and has a chance to grant you a frenzy charge on kill. Skitterbots, Chill, and Shock, which you would normally do without Secrets of Suffering. These 2 extra elemental ailments on an enemy will result in more damage with elemental hit. If you don't have Secrets of Suffering allocated yet, use Herald of Ice instead. Grace adds more and increases the evasion rating. Val Haste is a temporary aura for increased attack and movement speed. Use Precision to increase your critical strike chance and for additional accuracy rating. It should be obtained from the Hyries Truth. Blink Arrow is a basic mobility skill that can be replaced with Dash or Frost Blink if you prefer them. Immortal Call is a guard spell that causes you to take less physical and elemental damage for a second. Link it with Cast when damage taken. Immortal Call is now triggered after taking a certain amount of damage. Slay all 3 bandits in Act 2 to get 2 additional skill points. The Brine King is your major god. It provides freeze immunity, reduces the effect of chill, and prevents getting stunned multiple times in a row. Abereth is a good minor god. It reduces the ignite duration on you. Soul of Garakan is good too, if you don't mind being ignited. If you've played a similar build, you'll be familiar with the skill tree. It aims to gather bow damage, projectile nodes, critical strike, attack speed, elemental damage, spell suppression, maximum life, reservation efficiency, and evasion. Remember to allocate Mark the Prey notable, missing accuracy from Acuity, some Flask passives, and Leech. For masteries, get 50 extra life as Life Mastery, 10% chance to gain Frenzy Charge on hit as Mark Mastery, 10% of Leech is instant as Leech Mastery, projectile speed to affect projectile damage as Bow Mastery, conditional 15% chance to suppress spell damage as Evasion Mastery, 25% chance to treat elemental resistances as inverted as Elemental Mastery, and 25% crit multiplier against bosses as Critical Mastery. That is all there is to this simple Deadeye build. We would be happy to gather your feedback on the audio narrative aspect of this video. Stay safe, see you soon.